Good morning, students. In the today's session, we'll learn about RPC. It means Remote Procedure Call. It is a protocol that one program can use to request a service from another program of other computer without understanding the network details. Now here, whenever we are working with the RPC, when a computer program wants to access or need to be executed from another service network instead of sending and receiving the data from the same server. Okay, here the call has been taken up by the server. Okay, and now see here, whenever if we want to get the data from the other system of another network, then this remote procedure call protocol will be helpful. Okay, when the remote call is to be calling the same calling environment and it is suspended, and all the procedures has to be transferred to another network. Okay, where the call must be executed. Okay, and whenever you are working with the RPC, it is best suited for the client server communication, and the client and server cannot execute programs at a time. Okay, this we always use. Okay, and whenever we are working with the RPC, the following steps has to be taken. Okay, now see here, I have a small block diagram. Okay, client server RPC protocol. Okay, now see here, whenever if I have a communication, okay, if I want some data transmission between the client and server, that means here it is expecting the data from the other. That means see here, what is happening? See, the following steps are to be taken up during the RPC. Whenever if we are working with the remote procedure call, then the first step here, you just see here, this is our client process. It is our server process. At the client side, the client invokes a client stub. The client invokes his client stub, which resides at the client place. Okay. And next, in the next step, what happening? Here I have a client stub. Yes, and here I have this client stub. This client stub converts the messages into standard format according to the client network address. Okay. That means now the client stub is going to convert the messages into the standard format according to the network services. And in the next step, what is happening? Then it transfers the message. Then it transfers the message to the remote network address. Then here from the client step, it is going to transfer the message to the remote network address. And here in the next step, once the call is executed, according to the procedure, the call is returned to the server step. Okay, once the call is processed according to the step, now here it is going to, the call is going to process at a server step. Now then the transport layer, here the transport layer sends back the message to the client server step. That means what is the task of the server step here? What is the server step is doing? Once the call is executed, according to the procedure, call is returned to the server step and it transfers the message to the transport layer. And then the client server steps decode the message into the standard form and the call gets completed. This is the main process which happens with the remote procedure call. Okay, the client stub is going to send a request to the network messages, and then server stub is going to process and it sends the reply back to the client. And what are the steps which we can follow with the client server RPC protocol? Here we have mainly 6 steps we have to follow whenever we are working with the RPC protocol. First, what is the first step which we already learned? The client calls the client step. This is the first step. Client calls the client step. Here you just see, here the client calls the client step. Then in the second step, this client step is going to generate a system call to forward the message, and it is going to add the parameters to the message. Okay, that means the addresses it is going to enter. And in the next step, the message is forwarded from the client to the server via the client voice. Okay, and the message further passes to server step with the help of the OS. And message parameters are removed, and the server step calls the server processor. This is the major steps which we have to follow whenever we have this RPC protocol process. When we have this process, see, this RPC protocol mechanism which can be implemented in Java. Okay, And here, whenever if we want to implement this RPC, let me see what is meant by remote method invocation. RMA. RMA means what? It is a simple special mechanism of RPC. Okay, the RMA means it is a Java flavor of RPC. And here, whenever if we have a RMI, we'll have a proper communication of data between the client and server. Now, in this, we'll learn some program. That means whenever if we have a communication between the client and server, we should have the proper interface. Let me see. At the client side, we have the client stuff. At the server side, we have the server stuff will be there. Okay. Now we should have the proper programs. At the server side, what we need? Interface we need, as well as the server we need. Okay. And the RMA registry also we need. And at the client side, what are the requirements? Here, the client go through the interface. We are transmitting the data. Okay. And here at the client side, through this reference, okay, the server methods are going to be searched. Okay. Now we'll see the Java code for this RPC. Now we'll move the first program. Now here I have written 3 programs. One is an interface program. Another one is RMI client and RMI service. Here, whenever we are working with the RPC, it is a mechanism which is implemented in Java. And whenever if we want to implement the RPC mechanism, RMI is going, we have to implement with the RMI. Okay. Now, the first step is my interface. Here I have written 3 programs. One is the interface program. Okay. And another one is a client, and another one is the server. Okay. And server program as well as the client program. How we are working with this? Here, just we are started with import java.rmi. See what we are doing whenever we are working with this, whenever we are working with the RMI. Here, I told already, this RPC, the remote procedure call, can be implemented with the RMI concept, remote method invocation. Now, whenever I am working with a Java program, here first I have to import the RMI. Then I'm going to create some interface. Okay, I have to create one interface which extends the remote. Okay, and next here, just I'm going to write one message. That means how much, what is the count of the string which we are entered. Okay, public string count input. Okay, string input throws remote exception. Now I'll explain about the client program and server program of the RMI which we have done. Okay. Now, what is the RMI client program? Here, already we have learned at the client side. At the client side, RMI is going to this. The client is going to send the request to the RMI stub. From the RMI stub, it is going to give us with the proper parameters, it is going to send the request to the network interface. Okay, the same we are implementing here. Whenever we are working with the RMI, we should import the RMI header file as well as IO header file. Next, I have created with the RMI client as my class name. Next, here, whenever if we are reading the data, we should take as buffered readable. Okay. And interface we have to create. This is the RMI interface. And you just I'm printing some message. Okay. Type something or write something, anything, we can print some message. Now, here at the input side, the input is equals to br.readline. Now here, how much count input of input and now it is going to take the data. And at the server side, it is going to display the data. Okay. Now we'll see the server program also. Now, whenever if I'm working with the client and server program, the client is going to send some request. The server is going to access and process the request. Now, at the server side, what is happening here? Now, whenever we are implementing with the RMI, this RPC, we should work with the RMI. Just see here, I'm importing RMI interface as well as RMI server. Now I'm going to take the RMI server as my class name, which extends this unicast remote object. Okay, and it is going to implement my interface. This interface I have created as an interface in the starting of the program. First, I have to create one interface. Okay, the first created interface we have to implement into our program. Okay, now Here, once it is okay, now it is the server is running. Now it is going to display the message. Now here, in the main method, I have to work with my interface. Now, if there is any error occurs, it is going to display a message as exception occurred. Now, what is my next task here? Count input of string input. This is the interface which I have created. Okay. And whatever input I have received from the RMI client, that information I'm going to receive here. Okay. Then it is going to display me the number of letters which I have typed. Okay. Now I'll show you the execution part. See here, whenever we are executing, we can take the two command prompts, one for the client, another for the server. Okay. Let me start execution. Java C. What is my file name? Java C, my interface. My file name is Java C, my interface. Simply we can execute like this. Okay. Java C, my interface dot Java, Java C, RMI server and client. All these things we have to do. Java C, my interface dot Java. And next we have to execute the server. Okay. Anything we can. Java server. What is my file name I have used? RMI server. Okay. Dot Java, Java C, RMI client dot Java. Once the server program as well as client program has been executed, what is our next step is we have to register with the RMI. Whenever we are working with the RMI, here run remote object registry with the RMI registry. Okay, it is used by the RMI servers on the same host to bind onto the remote objects. Okay, now I'll register with the RMI registry. Now it will ask me. The registration process has been completed. Now, in the next step, what I have to do, I have to call the server. Okay, then I have to call my client. I'll take another command. Remote server is running now. Okay, I'll take another command. Okay. See, if I type something, okay, I'll write engine. You have typed the 4 words. Here, where I get this message, you see here. Here, you have typed the input dot length of letters. This is a server program. Here, this is my client prompt. Okay, Java RMI client. Now we have executed the client server program using RPC. If you have any doubts, you can ask me in college. All the best.